She waited until I finished renovating her apartment, then dumped me with a smirk. "Thanks for adding value," I smiled back. The next day, her apartment wasn't hers anymore. Convenience-wise. Okay, Reddit, I need to share this because I'm still processing what just happened. And honestly, I need to know if I'm the asshole here or if I just played the game the way she taught me to play it. So background, I'm Mason. I'm an electrician and general contractor in Austin. I run a small LLC doing residential remodels, mostly kitchens and bathrooms for homeowners. I'm that guy who has a contract for everything, keeps every receipt, takes before and after photos religiously. My dad always said no paperwork, no work, and that's basically my religion. I met Lee about a year and a half ago through mutual friends. She's a social media strategist for a yoga studio and does TikTok on the side, mostly that clean girl aesthetic apartment content. Super into the whole Pinterest perfect life thing. We hit it off, dated, things seemed good. We didn't live together, but I figured we were heading that direction eventually. Lee was renting half of this older duplex from this sweet older lady, Mrs. Ortiz. The place was rough. We're talking 1990s builder grade everything. Kitchen had those fake wood laminate cabinets that were peeling, ancient appliances, countertops that looked like they survived a small war. The bathroom was worse, cracked tile, yellowing toilet, shower that belonged in a roadside motel. But the rent was decent for Austin and the landlord was flexible. Here's where it gets interesting. Mrs. Ortiz had told Lee that if someone wanted to upgrade the place on their own dime with proper permits, she'd reduce the rent by $250 a month and let them keep or remove any non-permanent improvements. It was just a general policy she offered to tenants. Lee started hinting that it would be amazing if we could fix up her place together. She said once we got more serious, we'd probably move in there together anyway, so it would be like investing in our future. She promised she'd contribute money when her next big client came through. Spoiler, that never happened. I'm an idiot, so I agreed. I thought this was us building something together, but here's something that probably saved my ass. When Lee and I decided I'd do the work, I insisted we formalize everything. I'm talking proper addendum to the lease, signed by Mrs. Ortiz, Lee, and me. I drafted the language myself, specifying that all fixtures, cabinetry, and appliances purchased and installed by Mason Holt Remodeling, LLC would remain property of the LLC, not the tenant. The addendum stated I could remove my property at any time as long as the unit remained code compliant and habitable. Everything had to be documented with receipts and permits in my company name. For 6 months, I spent every evening after work and most weekends transforming that place. I completely gutted the kitchen, custom cabinets I built myself, quartz countertops, white subway tile backsplash, new dishwasher, stainless steel appliances, the works. Redid the entire bathroom with a walk-in glass shower, new tile everywhere, floating vanity, one of those fancy water-saving toilets. Ripped up all the old flooring and put down engineered oak throughout. New lighting with dimmers, built-in shelving, a custom closet system. All in, I'm about $44,000 deep in materials and subcontractor costs. My labor was free because, love or whatever. Every single receipt had Mason Holt Remodeling LLC on it. Every permit was in my company name. I documented everything because that's how I roll. Meanwhile, Lee was doing her thing. She filmed TikToks and Instagram reels the entire time. My contractor boyfriend is transforming my rental into a luxury loft. She tagged me in posts, and the comments were always stuff like, "OMG, marry him and he's a keeper." I'll admit, it felt good at the time. Her following grew, brands started reaching out to her about the apartment aesthetic, but whenever I brought up the money side of things, she'd get vague. "We'll figure it out when we move in together officially," or "This is basically our place anyway, right?" I should have pushed harder, but I wanted to believe we were on the same page. Yesterday, I finished everything. The place looked like something out of HGTV. I installed the last piece, this beautiful kitchen island with wine rack shelving, turned on the under cabinet lighting and just stood there feeling proud. Lee did one final apartment tour for her followers. Caption was something like, "From Craigslist ugly to designer chic, same rent, higher value." That night, she hit me with the "we need to talk." She said she'd been feeling stifled and needed to focus on herself and wasn't ready for the level of commitment I was expecting. I asked if there was someone else. She dodged the question. Whatever I could read between the lines. I stood up to leave, trying to keep it together, just said, "Okay, I wish you the best." That's when she smirked. Actual smirk. And said, "Well, at least thanks for adding value to my apartment. I'm pretty sure I can negotiate a better lease situation now." I glanced over and saw her laptop open to an email draft to a landlord at some high-rise downtown. She was literally using the renovated apartment as proof of income and references to get a fancier place, and I could see she'd been researching how to airbnb her current unit. It hit me like a freight train. I wasn't her boyfriend helping out. I was free labor. She'd waited until I finished everything, got her perfect content, and was planning to either flip this place for profit or use it as a stepping stone to something better. I smiled back at her. "Yeah, you're welcome. Thanks for teaching me who I should invest in." I left, sat in my truck for a minute, then opened my phone and pulled up the file folder labeled Ortiz Duplex Renovation Agreement. Here's the thing about being meticulous with paperwork. Everything I installed was legally mine. I didn't argue with her, didn't text her angry messages. I just made a plan. The next morning, which means today, right now, while Lee is at brunch posting Instagram stories about first day of freedom, I text Mrs. Ortiz. She's cool about it. I reminded her about the addendum, sent her the receipts and photos, and told her I'd be removing my company's property from the unit in compliance with all codes. She wrote back, "As long as you keep it habitable and up to code, that's your right." So I called my crew. "Now if you excuse me, I have some work to do. We'll update you guys once I'm done." Update 1. Holy hell, Reddit, I was not expecting this to blow up like it did. Thank you for all the support and honestly for helping me see I wasn't crazy. Some of you asked for an update, and boy do I have one. So just to be clear about what I did didn't trash anything. I didn't violate any laws. I just took back what was legally mine according to the written agreement I had with the landlord. That Saturday morning, Lee posted an Instagram story from some bougie brunch spot downtown. "Brunching with the girls, first day truly free," with the location tagged. Perfect timing. I called in 4 guys from my crew. This wasn't a quick job. I couldn't remove everything. Some stuff like drywall repairs, paint, and certain electrical work that was permanently integrated, that stayed. But anything I could reasonably remove without destroying the structure, gone. We removed every custom cabinet I'd built. Took out the quartz countertops, carefully removed the backsplash tile without destroying the drywall underneath. Disconnected the new dishwasher, pulled the new range and fridge. Mrs. Ortiz still had the old appliances in her garage from when I'd started the project. They were ugly and ancient, but they worked. We reinstalled those. The kitchen went from looking like a Williams-Sonoma catalog to looking like a 1987 apartment in about 4 hours. The bathroom took a bit longer. We removed the floating vanity, took out the rainfall showerhead and glass enclosure, put back the old pedestal sink and basic shower rod with a curtain. The new tile stayed because removing it would have meant replastering everything, but without the nice fixtures, it just looked weird. We couldn't remove all the flooring since some of it was glued down in ways that would damage the subfloor, but we did take out the sections in the living room and kitchen that I'd installed on special underlayment. Left the original vinyl in those areas. It was ugly but perfectly safe. All the nice lighting fixtures, gone, replaced with basic builder-grade stuff that Mrs. Ortiz had in storage. The built-in shelving came out. The custom closet system came out. Everything we removed was carefully wrapped and loaded into a storage unit I rent for materials between jobs. Every piece was photographed and cataloged because, again, documentation is my love language. On the old Formica counter, which was now back in place, chips and all, I left a note. Removed all fixtures and cabinetry owned by Mason Holt Remodeling LLC per addendum. Unit remains code compliant and habitable. Best wishes focusing on yourself. We were done by 2 p.m. The place wasn't dangerous or unlivable. It had a working kitchen, bathroom, electricity, water, everything required by code. But it looked worse than when I'd started because now it was this Frankenstein mix of old and new that didn't match. I went home, cracked a beer, and waited. Around 4:30 p.m., my phone started blowing up. Missed calls, texts, voicemails. I didn't answer. Finally, I sent one text. Check addendum clause 3.3. Everything removed was LLC property. Unit is habitable. We're done. That's when things got really interesting. She called the cops. Yeah, no kidding. She told them her crazy ex-boyfriend broke in and stole her kitchen and bathroom. I got a call from APD asking me to come down to the duplex to clear things up. When I got there, there were 2 officers and Lee was crying angry tears, telling them I'd destroyed her home. Mrs. Ortiz was there too, bless her, and she'd already shown them the addendum and my emails. The officers walked through the unit. They saw the working stove, sink, fridge, the bathroom with toilet, sink, and shower all working. They asked me some questions. I showed them my phone with copies of all the contracts, receipts showing Mason Holt Remodeling LLC on everything, permits in my company name, and Mrs. Ortiz's written permission. One officer looked at Lee and said, "Ma'am, this is a civil matter. He removed his own property. The unit meets habitability standards." She started yelling that everyone had seen me install everything on TikTok, that I'd done it for her. The officer just shrugged and said, "Right, we saw those videos. They show him purchasing and installing everything with his company materials. That actually supports his case." They left. She was standing in her newly downgraded apartment, absolutely livid. But here's where it gets really good. She went to social media. Posted this tearful video with the caption, "My ex took my entire kitchen and bathroom to punish me for breaking up with him. This is financial abuse." At first, the comments were sympathetic. "Lots of men are trash and sue him, girl." But then, one of her longtime followers, someone who'd been watching her content for over a year, did a stitch of one of her old videos. It was from month 3 of the renovation where Lee had said, and I quote, "My contractor boyfriend is upgrading my rental with his company's budget. Landlord is getting a free flip." The person captioned it, "So this was a free marketing project for his company and you literally bragged the landlord gets it free. Now suddenly it's your property." People started asking questions. Did you pay him? Whose name is on the receipts? Why didn't you have a contract if you paid for it? She started getting defensive in the comments, then turned off comments, then deleted the video entirely. But the internet never forgets. Screenshots were everywhere. The narrative flipped completely. Now people were saying she'd used me for free labor and content, then dumped me when I was done being useful. Some of her brand partnerships started quietly unfollowing her. Her comment sections became a mess. I didn't say a word publicly. Didn't need to. The receipts, literal and figurative, spoke for themselves. A couple of mutual friends reached out asking what the hell happened. I just sent them the legal documents and said I'd taken back my property according to the contract. That's it. Honestly, Reddit, I still feel weird about it. Not guilty exactly, but just. I spent 6 months thinking I was building something with someone. Turns out I was just being used. The financial hit sucks, but honestly the betrayal hurts worse. Some people are asking if she's going to sue. I don't know. Let her try. I've got every document, every receipt, every email, and a solid paper trail showing she contributed exactly $0. Mrs. Ortiz has been texting me actually. She said she's sorry things turned out this way, but that she respects that I protected my business. She said if I ever need a reference, she's got my back. So yeah, that's where things stand. Lee's back in an ugly apartment. I've got all my materials ready for the next project, and I learned a very expensive lesson about making sure everyone's invested before you start building. Update 2. Okay Reddit, you guys have been asking for another update and things have developed. Some of you called it in the comments. So Lee went ahead and tried the legal route. She hired a lawyer, probably someone cheap from her Google searches, and filed in small claims court. She was asking for $30,000 in damages, claiming that the fixtures became part of the real property and I had no right to remove them. The court date was last Thursday. I showed up with my folder of doom. Seriously, I had everything organized with tabs and page numbers because I'm apparently that guy. Lee showed up with her lawyer looking confident. Her argument was basically that improvements to a rental property become part of the property and can't be removed, and that she had a reasonable expectation that the upgrades were for the apartment, not temporary installations. My turn. I laid it all out. The addendum signed by Mrs. Ortiz explicitly stating that fixtures and cabinets provided by Mason Holt Remodeling LLC remain property of the LLC and are removable trade fixtures. Every single receipt showing my business name and business account. All the permits in my company name. Printouts of Lee's own TikToks and Instagram posts where she specifically called it my contractor boyfriend's company project and joked about the landlord getting a free upgrade. Text messages where she wrote, "You handle the business side with your company, we'll figure out the personal stuff later." Mrs. Ortiz's written statement confirmed she'd signed the addendum specifically because I'd asked for protection of my company assets, that Lee never paid for anything, and that she'd given me permission to remove my property. The judge listened to everything, looked over the documents, and honestly seemed kind of annoyed. He asked Lee's lawyer, "Did your client contribute any money to these renovations?" Lawyer, "Well, she contributed her time and social media promotion." Judge, "So no actual money." Lawyer, "Not in the traditional sense, but judge, and she's aware that the property owner signed an agreement stating these were removable company fixtures." Long pause. "Yes, Your Honor, but she believed," the judge cut him off. "What she believed doesn't override a written contract that specifically addresses this exact situation." He dismissed her entire claim. Not only that, but he ordered her to pay the court costs since I'd had to take time off work to defend against what he called a claim without legal foundation. It was over in about 45 minutes. After court, Mrs. Ortiz asked if I'd have coffee with her. We went to this little place nearby, and she told me she's 73 years old and has been thinking about her retirement plan. She owns 4 duplexes in Austin, all older properties like the one Lee was in. She said she was impressed with how I'd handled everything. She asked if I'd be interested in becoming her primary contractor for updating her other units as they turn over, with a profit-sharing arrangement based on rent increases after renovations. But that's not all. She also offered me right of first refusal if I wanted to purchase any of her properties when she starts selling them off in the next few years, at a fair market price, but with some owner financing options. I took the deal. We're meeting with her lawyer next week to write up the contracts, because of course I want everything in writing. There's already one vacant unit in another duplex she owns. I'm going to use some of the fixtures and cabinets I removed from Lee's place to outfit it. It's kind of poetic. That kitchen island I built is going into a unit where I'll actually benefit from the rental income. As for Lee, the fallout continues. Her Airbnb plan died because she needs the landlord's permission for that, and Mrs. Ortiz is definitely not granting it after this drama. The upgraded apartment was the only leverage she had for getting into a nicer place downtown, and now that leverage is gone. When her lease came up for renewal, Mrs. Ortiz sent her a non-renewal notice. It's perfectly legal in Texas with proper notice. Mrs. Ortiz told me privately that she doesn't want to deal with potential future drama or legal threats, which I completely understand. So Lee's apartment hunting with a freelance income, and no fancy HGTV-worthy place to show in her application. The last mutual friend who still talks to both of us said she's having trouble finding anything decent in her price range because Austin's rental market is brutal. Meanwhile, I just got my first payment from the profit-sharing arrangement with Mrs. Ortiz after we filled the renovated unit at $300 more per month than it was getting before. Not huge money, but it's a start, and it's building toward actual ownership. Someone in the comments on my last post said, "Don't build a house on someone else's land if they don't value you," and that really stuck with me. That's exactly what I was doing. Building, investing, giving my skills and time and money to someone who saw me as a resource to exploit. I'm not bitter anymore. Honestly, I kind of dodged a bullet. Lee still has her social media, but her engagement is down. Every so often someone will comment on an old post like, "Isn't this the girl who tried to steal her ex's renovation?" She started deleting those and blocking people, but yeah, the internet really doesn't forget. I don't follow her anymore, don't check her pages, don't care. I'm too busy planning out the next renovation and actually building something for myself. Final update. Hey Reddit. It's been almost a year since my original post and people have been asking for a final update, so here it is. A lot has changed. I'm now a partial owner of one of Mrs. Ortiz's duplexes. We worked out a deal where I put in sweat equity plus some savings, and she owner-financed the rest. I used some of that original material from Lee's place, plus new stuff, and we've got both units rented at really competitive rates. The cash flow is solid. My business has actually grown too. Mrs. Ortiz referred me to some of her friends in the landlord community, and I've picked up steady work doing renovations on rental properties with proper contracts that spell out exactly what belongs to who. That whole drama actually taught me to be even more careful about documentation, and property owners respect that. I've got a real portfolio now. A website for Mason Holt remodeling with a case study section. The first one is literally titled, How I Renovated a 1970s Duplex into Modern Rentals with Proper Contracts. It's doing well for SEO and I get inquiries regularly. But here's the kicker, and the real reason I'm posting this final update. Last week, I got an email from the property manager who handles applications for Mrs. Ortiz's properties. There was a new rental application for one of the units I co-own. The property manager flags anything that might need my input since I'm a co-owner. The applicant's name was listed as Lee M. Carter. She'd apparently added her middle name or changed something, but the previous address, occupation, and social media handles were identical. There was a note from the property manager. Previous landlord reference from Mrs. Ortiz shows. Tenant created legal disputes regarding property modifications. Lease was not renewed. Would not recommend. I sat there staring at my computer for a solid 5 minutes. She'd applied to rent one of my properties. She either didn't know I was involved, or she was desperate enough not to care. I wrote back to the property manager with the most professional email I could manage. Based on previous landlord reference and documented history of lease violations, I do not recommend approving this application. That was it. No drama, no long explanation, just a simple business decision based on references. The manager replied, "Understood. Application denied." I don't know if Lee ever found out I was the one who made the decision. I don't really care. It was just business, same way she'd made it just business when she used me for 6 months of free labor. A mutual friend told me a while back that Lee's living in a smaller place now, something pretty basic, and she still complains about toxic men on her social media. Apparently she tells people the story about her ex stealing her kitchen as some kind of trauma narrative, but anyone who follows her from before remembers the truth. I don't look at her pages anymore. If her name pops up somewhere, I just scroll past. She wanted an upgraded apartment without commitment. I wanted a relationship with commitment before upgrading anything together. We were never on the same page, and I was too busy building to notice she was just using me as a contractor. Now I build things that actually belong to me, or I have contracts that protect me, or I'm working with people who respect what I bring to the table. That's it. That's the end of the story. I'm doing fine. Better than fine, actually. Thanks for coming on this ride with me, Reddit. Edit. Someone asked if I ever found out if she had someone else lined up when she dumped me. Yeah, mutual friends confirmed she'd been talking to some guy for about a month before the breakup. Apparently that fizzled out pretty quick. Just added context for anyone wondering.